What if the moment everything suddenly makes sense is actually the moment your thinking quietly stops asking questions, even though the world keeps moving, changing, and surprising in ways that refuse to stay neat? The everything makes sense mindset feels like flipping on a bright light in a dark room, because shapes appear calmer and corners look friendly, yet the light may hide shadows that only show themselves later. At first, this mindset feels cozy, as if the brain wrapped itself in a soft blanket of certainty, while confusing noises outside the window suddenly seem far away and unimportant. Kids notice this feeling when an explanation arrives that sounds clever enough to explain everything, even if parts were skipped, stretched, or quietly pushed under the rug, where doubts wait patiently. The everything makes sense mindset likes tidy stories because tidy stories feel safe, predictable, and easy to repeat, especially when telling friends or convincing yourself before falling asleep, while questions whisper nearby. Sometimes it appears after a mistake, when a simple explanation explains away the uncomfortable feeling, allowing the mind to relax while the problem pretends it was never there, smiling politely. Other times it shows up during arguments, when one idea seems to click so perfectly that alternative ideas start to look silly, unnecessary, or strangely invisible, even when evidence lingers. The problem is not that things can make sense, but that making sense too quickly can gently close the door on noticing details that do not fit the story, waiting outside. Imagine finishing a puzzle by forcing the last piece into place, feeling proud and relieved, while a tiny corner bends, cracks, and quietly changes the picture, though no one claps. The everything makes sense mindset celebrates that moment because the picture looks complete, even if the table beneath is slightly crooked, wobbling with hidden pieces that were never checked carefully. Kids often use this mindset when explaining the world, like deciding that rain falls simply because clouds feel heavy, while ignoring wind, temperature, and other invisible messes swirling above them. That explanation works well enough to move on, which feels useful, yet it quietly trains the mind to stop peeking behind the curtain, where surprises hide patiently and wait longer. Philosophy sneaks in right there, not to shout that the explanation is wrong, but to ask what was left out while everyone nodded and smiled, pretending the story was finished. The everything makes sense mindset can feel brave because it faces confusion and declares victory, even when confusion might still be hiding behind the curtain, tapping softly on the wall. Some people love this mindset because it keeps anxiety quiet, giving the comforting belief that the world is understandable, predictable, and already figured out, as long as questions behave nicely. Others feel uneasy around it because it can turn curiosity into something annoying, something that interrupts the nice story instead of improving it, like static on music playing softly nearby. The mindset becomes especially tempting when things go wrong, because saying everything makes sense can soften disappointment and protect pride, even while lessons knock patiently at the door outside minds. Children might think a failed plan happened for a mysterious but perfect reason, which feels comforting, even if the reason was never actually examined or tested with questions slowly later. This creates a gentle tug-of-war between trust and curiosity, where trusting the explanation feels calm, while questioning it feels like shaking a snow globe, watching flakes swirl endlessly inside quietly. The everything makes sense mindset sometimes pretends that mystery is a problem to solve quickly, rather than a space to explore slowly, with patience and wonder together over time gently. Stories for kids often play with this idea, showing characters who think they understand everything until small surprises poke holes in their confidence, like leaks in balloons floating above heads. Those moments feel uncomfortable, yet they also feel exciting, because the story becomes bigger than the explanation that tried to trap it, stretching beyond its borders slowly and playfully outward. The everything makes sense mindset resists that stretching, preferring to shrink the story back into something manageable, even if corners bend uncomfortably under pressure over time again and again quietly. Yet life keeps offering moments that do not fit, like feelings that arrive without explanation or outcomes that ignore predictions, asking to be noticed patiently by curious minds everywhere still. Kids notice this when an adult says everything will be fine, which sounds nice, yet somehow skips over the worrying still sitting in the room, tapping its foot softly nearby. The everything makes sense mindset can act like a fast-forward button, rushing past uncomfortable questions that need time, space, and patience to grow properly within thoughtful pauses and quiet thinking. At the same time, it would be unfair to say this mindset is always wrong because it sometimes helps people stay calm during chaos, giving strength to move forward again. That creates another tension because something that helps in one moment might limit thinking in another, depending on when it appears quietly inside growing minds everywhere today and tomorrow too. The story does not ask readers to abandon sense, but to notice when sense becomes a wall instead of a window, blocking breezes of ideas from the outside world gently. A wall feels strong and safe, while a window feels risky and cold, yet windows let light in, changing how things look slowly over time for curious eyes everywhere always. The everything makes sense mindset prefers walls, while curiosity prefers windows, and both claim to protect the room, though in different ways that kids can slowly learn to compare thoughtfully. When children hear confident explanations, they may feel relieved, yet a small spark inside still wonders what was not mentioned, drifting between thoughts quietly as time passes on slowly still. That spark is not trying to ruin the story, but to keep it alive and growing, adding new pages later with imagination, curiosity, and gentle doubt together over long days. The everything makes sense mindset would like to close the book early, satisfied with the ending it found, even if chapters remain unwritten and waiting patiently for curious readers still. Philosophy for Curious Kids does not rip the book away, but gently asks whether reading further might be interesting, surprising, or confusing in ways that stretch thinking slowly over time. The question lingers because comfort and curiosity both feel good, even though they often pull in opposite directions, like two friends arguing while walking the same path forward together quietly. The everything makes sense mindset promises rest, while curiosity promises adventure, and children sense the choice without being told, feeling both tug at the same time inside thoughtful hearts always. Neither promise is completely false, which makes the decision tricky rather than simple, especially when thinking grows more complex with age stories and experiences over long years ahead quietly waiting. The story keeps both ideas alive, allowing sense to help when needed, while letting mystery keep breathing, expanding like lungs filling with questions, thoughts, and playful doubt over time gently. Children walking through thoughts like this learn that understanding can be useful without being complete, leaving room for more ideas, feelings, and discoveries later on. Quiet afternoons ahead still open. The everything makes sense mindset is not kicked out of the story, but asked to share space, politely with questions that wander around corners of ideas slowly without fear growing. That sharing feels awkward because certainty and curiosity speak different languages, even though both care about understanding, listening between the lines as meaning shifts gently with time and experience still. The tension remains, hovering like a question mark that refuses to straighten out, wobbling above thoughts during quiet moments, playful debates, and wondering minds everywhere today and tomorrow too perhaps. Kids may notice that saying everything makes sense sometimes ends conversations, while questions keep them going, opening paths instead through forests of ideas, feelings, and imagination slowly over time endlessly. Neither ending nor continuing is always right, which keeps the story balanced on a thin line, swaying but not breaking under curious steps, thoughtful pauses, and gentle minds learning daily. The everything makes sense mindset watches from one side, confident and calm, while curiosity peers from the other, both wanting the best for understanding, growth, and joyful thinking over time. The story refuses to choose a final winner, because choosing too quickly would break its own lesson, whatever that lesson is, as curiosity smiled quietly nearby without explaining everything yet. Instead, it leaves readers standing between comfort and curiosity, feeling both pull gently, like hands tugging sleeves on breezy days full of questions and laughter, imagination, and wonder inside minds. That feeling is not meant to be solved immediately, but carried for a while, rolling around thoughts as children grow, question, argue, imagine, and observe the world differently each year. And somewhere inside that unfinished feeling, the question waits, asking whether everything truly needs to make sense right now, or whether wondering is enough for today, this moment, and curious minds.